you use him again.
Caviezel.
Yeah, I know it's 20 years later.
Too.
It's 20 years later, but it's...
Yeah, but it's the right guy.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be 3 days later, but he got 20 years older. And I think I have to use a few techniques that they've started to get really good with
the CGI. And they can do amazing things now.
You can actually get some of the same people.
We have some exciting news to share with you about the sequel of Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ.
Before we even get into that, though, I think we have to address the fact the first film came out in 2004. Here we are 21 years later.
Mel Gibson has officially dropped major news about the resurrection of the Christ, the long-awaited sequel to The Passion, and what he revealed is nothing short of jaw-dropping. After nearly 2 decades of speculation, he's finally ready to take audiences beyond the crucifixion into the supernatural mysteries of what happened next. From divine visions and apocalyptic themes to bold claims that Hollywood isn't ready for, this isn't just a movie, it's a spiritual bombshell. Stay with us as we dive deep into the story behind Mel Gibson's most daring and controversial cinematic journey yet. When The Passion of the Christ hit theaters in 2004, no one expected it to shake the world like it did. Directed by Mel Gibson and starring Jim Caviezel as Jesus, the film broke every rule in Hollywood. Spoken entirely in Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew, with brutal depictions of Christ's final hours. Critics were split, religious leaders were moved, audiences were stunned. But despite, or maybe because of, the controversy, it exploded at the box office. With just a $30 million 0 cents budget, it grossed over $612 million 0 cents worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing R-rated film of its time and the most successful independent film ever made. Yet the film's legacy was more than financial. For millions, it became a cinematic expression of faith. Churches rented theaters, priests wept in public, families came out of cinemas in silence. Mel Gibson had tapped into something raw, painful, and real. But that power came at a cost. The film was accused of anti-Semitism, it drew fire from Hollywood elites, and despite its success, a sequel seemed impossible. Too risky, too spiritual, too intense. Still, one question remained in the minds of millions. What happened after the cross? And now, 20 years later, Mel Gibson is finally ready to answer it.
21 years later, what took so long? And the big thing that Mel Gibson is saying is that it took him 8 years to even write this script, that he has spent a ton of time. It's not just this simple project that's going to pick up where the last one left off.
It's been nearly 2 decades since The Passion of the Christ left audiences shaken. And finally, the long-anticipated sequel is officially on its way. But why did it take 20 years? Mel Gibson always knew this wasn't just another sequel. Titled The Passion of the Christ Resurrection, this film would tackle the most sacred, debated, and mysterious event in all of Christianity, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And getting that right wasn't easy. Gibson spent years researching, consulting theologians, diving deep into ancient texts, and asking the hardest questions. What exactly happened in those 3 days? What did Jesus experience beyond the veil of death? For Gibson, it wasn't about rushing to cash in. It was about reverence, about truth, about time. He wanted to make something spiritually authentic, emotionally gripping, and visually breathtaking. Hollywood wasn't ready. Studios were hesitant. Even some believers were skeptical. But Gibson waited. And now, with the world divided and hungry for meaning, he believes the time is finally right. So, what do we actually know about the Passion of the Christ resurrection? First off, Jim Caviezel is back. Yes, the man who gave an unforgettable performance as Jesus in the original film is returning to the role, despite suffering multiple injuries during filming in 2004, including being struck by lightning. Caviezel has confirmed the sequel is the biggest film in history, promising something unlike anything audiences have seen before. Mel Gibson isn't just directing, he's co-writing the script with Randall Wallace, the same mind behind Braveheart. And according to interviews, this isn't a surface-level retelling. The script reportedly explores the supernatural, the unseen spiritual battles, and even the descent of Christ into hell, based on ancient Christian traditions and texts rarely depicted on screen. Filming locations? Mostly in Italy and parts of Eastern Europe. Gibson wants authenticity in every frame, ancient architecture, rugged landscapes, and raw visual storytelling that mirrors the agony and glory of the resurrection. And while no official release date is set, insiders suggest filming is either underway or about to begin soon. One thing's for sure, Gibson isn't just making a movie, he's building an experience. Mel Gibson isn't just telling a story, he's inviting us into a spiritual journey. According to Gibson and screenwriter Randall Wallace, the resurrection of the Christ aims to explore the unseen, what happened between the crucifixion and resurrection. This includes Christ's descent into the realm of the dead, known in Christian theology as the harrowing of hell. It's a powerful moment, never shown in major cinema, where Christ confronts darkness itself and liberates the souls of the righteous. This isn't about special effects or spectacle. It's about the weight of divine sacrifice, the reality of suffering, and the unshakable promise of redemption. Mel Gibson himself said the film will shake the modern viewer to their core. It's being designed to make audiences feel, think, and question. Jim Caviezel described reading the script as a religious experience.
But he just said, if you ever struggle, if you ever have pain, whatever, just come over. And I felt like that man was one of the faces that I saw while I was playing Jesus, that he represented Jesus to me.
He believes this movie could spark deep spiritual awakenings across the world. Could this sequel lead a new generation to reflect on faith, salvation, and eternity? If Gibson succeeds, this won't be just another blockbuster. It could become one of the most spiritually significant films of our time. To understand the resurrection of the Christ, we have to understand Mel Gibson. Behind the camera is a man who's lived through intense personal storms. After the Passion of the Christ, Gibson faced public breakdowns, alcoholism, accusations of anti-Semitism, and being blacklisted in Hollywood. For years, studios refused to work with him. His name became a headline for all the wrong reasons. But through it all, he never abandoned his faith or his vision. In interviews, Gibson admits that his own journey through darkness, guilt, and redemption directly fuels his passion for telling Chris' story. This isn't just art for him, it's confession, healing, and transformation. When asked why he returned to this story after so many years, Gibson said, "I had to live some life first."
In its own time. It's taken its own time. I thought it was late. I thought, oh, it's taking too long, but it's probably just right. Yeah, it's when it's supposed to be.
Now I understand suffering in a different way. Is that what makes this sequel so different? This isn't just Mel Gibson the director, it's Mel Gibson the redeemed, offering a film shaped by his deepest regrets, rawest pain, and most hard-won hope. Why is Hollywood so nervous about the resurrection of the Christ? Because it's a film that refuses to play by the rules. Gibson's 2004 original shocked the industry, earning over $600 million. 0 cents on a $30 million 0 cents budget, with no major studio backing. It was raw, violent, unapologetically spiritual, and yet it became a global phenomenon. Now the sequel promises to be even bolder. Early reports suggest the film dives into theological mysteries that even churches often avoid. Visions of heaven, spiritual warfare, the harrowing of hell. This isn't just a biblical epic. It's metaphysical cinema on steroids. Hollywood knows it could stir massive controversy. And let's not forget, Gibson isn't afraid to challenge industry norms or to spark outrage. Some executives fear it will ignite fresh culture wars. Others quietly hope to ride its inevitable success. But the question remains, will the resurrection of the Christ be embraced as a masterpiece or rejected as too much truth for one screen? Jim Caviezel, the man who portrayed Jesus in The Passion of the Christ, hasn't been quiet about the upcoming sequel or the battles surrounding it. In interviews, Caviezel has described the resurrection of the Christ as the biggest film in world history. But that's not all. He's also claimed that the film will expose spiritual truths Hollywood doesn't want you to see. He suggested there's a hidden war between faith and entertainment, a fight over what messages are allowed on screen. Even more shocking, Caviezel hinted that powerful people tried to stop this sequel from being made. His bold declarations have stirred both admiration and controversy, with critics accusing him of conspiratorial thinking, while fans see him as a brave voice speaking truth in a dark world. What exactly does Caviezel know, and why is he so sure this film will change everything? Around the world, Christians are holding their breath. The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a movie. It was a spiritual awakening for millions. Churches hosted screenings, pastors preached about it, and believers wept in theaters. Now, after 2 decades, the anticipation for the resurrection of the Christ is unlike anything Hollywood has seen. From the streets of Brazil to house churches in China, people are praying for this film to deliver truth, not just drama. Will it live up to the spiritual weight it carries, or will it collapse under the pressure of expectation? Millions are watching, and they're hoping it's more than just a sequel. It's a revelation. Expectations are sky high. and that's putting it mildly. When The Passion of the Christ exploded onto screens in 2004, it wasn't just a box office hit, it was a global spiritual moment. Now, with the resurrection of the Christ in the works, fans and skeptics alike are asking, can lightning strike twice? The challenge? Balancing powerful storytelling with biblical accuracy while avoiding Hollywood cliches. And with 20 years of build-up, every detail, from casting to cinematography, will be under a microscope. Mel Gibson faces a brutal question. Can he deliver a film that speaks to both the faithful and the film critics? The hype is massive, but will the final product rise to meet it or fall under its own weight? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, the world will be watching. The resurrection isn't just the end of a movie, it's the beginning of everything. For over 2,000 years, this story has been the cornerstone of hope, forgiveness, and eternal life for millions. Now, Mel Gibson is bringing it to the screen not as a sequel, but as a spiritual event. This isn't about special effects or box office records. It's about reminding a broken world that death doesn't get the last word. The story of Jesus rising from the grave is a reminder that no matter how dark things get, the light will break through. That's what this film aims to capture. Will it succeed? Time will decide. But one thing is clear, faith is rising again, and so is the story that changed the world. If this story moved you, don't just watch, be part of the message. Like, share, and comment your thoughts on the resurrection. Let your voice rise with the story that shook the world, because faith, hope, and truth deserve the spotlight again.